Can Ashton Kutcher ultimately prove himself as Steve Jobs did? You're watching Beyond the Trailer's review of Jobs.
Us!
What are you working on?
It's a computer terminal that hooks up to the TV for the display.
Steve?
Wow. These are state of the art. Nobody's making anything like this.
All right, okay. Welcome to Apple Computer.
Is this everything?
Startup.
When the trailer for Jobs hit the internet, you and I immediately had a disagreement over whether or not Ashton Kutcher looks like Steve Jobs. I said hair, makeup, and glasses weren't enough, citing huge differences in their facial structures. Kutcher is round, whereas Jobs was angular. We would have the same argument just a few weeks later for Saving Mr. Banks, and neither is resolved, leaving it up to the critics, the box office, and award season. But just because Kutcher views himself as a player in the internet industry, he does invest heavily through his company Catalyst Media and the likes of Skype and Foursquare, doesn't mean he can play one on the big screen. After all, just because you have a Daniel Day-Lewis level makeup team doesn't mean the talent will follow. And of course there's a matter of the script. It's a first-time script written by the corporate communications director at Five Star Institute, who also happens to be the son of its founder, Mark Holm, who is personally financing and producing Jobs, his first film as well. And because Holm was brazenly acting outside of the Hollywood system, he beat Sony to the punch, who had acquired the rights to Steve Jobs' official biography and had legendary screenwriter Aaron Sorkin working on it. No recent word on if that project is still moving forward. But speaking of Sorkin, his The Social Network might have featured Justin Timberlake as internet mover and shaker Sean Parker, while the interpretation drew praise, it certainly didn't paint Parker as the kind of guy who'd have a $10 million Lord of the Rings themed wedding in Big Sur, which he did in June. The pics ran in Vanity Fair and invited criticism as Parker didn't bother to get permits to dig up the forest floor for a pond, stone bridge, and an elevated dance floor, among other lavish details. Steve Jobs was no saint either, and at least the trailer for Jobs hints at exploring his darker side. So does Jobs have artistic integrity, or is it just another self-indulgent act by a very rich man? The first 15 minutes of this movie are excruciatingly bad. I mean, I got really nervous about what I was in for the entire 2-hour running length. It was as if all my worst fears of the film were realized, and it felt like a bad SNL sketch that wasn't even trying to be funny. But then, for some reason, the movie did a complete 180, and it actually ended up being pretty darn good. I had a good time. I mean, it's not The Social Network by any means, but it's certainly on the level of a very good HBO movie. And I felt that I learned a lot about Apple computers and Steve Jobs. And on that note, Ashton Kutcher really pulled this role off. As I expressed in the opening, I was very nervous about his ability to portray Jobs, both physically and acting-wise. And I feel that for the most part, he really succeeded. And the best thing I can say about it is at the end of the film, I associated him with Jobs. He was Jobs to me. He does a particularly good job, Kutcher, portraying Jobs' intensity, and those are the scenes where I think he does the best. And when the movie starts to give Jobs a purpose and a goal of building this company and being a creative genius and realizing his vision, I think that's what gave the film the 180, and I think that's where Kutcher really shines, and why he didn't do so well in the beginning, where Jobs is more lost and trying to find himself. I think that Kutcher just couldn't portray those emotions very well. Also, physically, I think Kutcher had a lot of problems portraying, for instance, Jobs apparently had a very unique walk, and while it worked okay in close-ups, whenever they showed it in a wide shot, it just seemed forced. And also at the beginning of the film, Kutcher has to portray a much older Jobs, and he just is unable to. However, just because he can't physically do the work, but I think emotionally and in the younger scenes does a great job, that makes it worth choosing Kutcher for the role. I don't think it was a mistake to use him. And in fact, I think that maybe one day Kutcher could get there physically as an actor. And really what you have here is a case of someone overstepping the bounds of their talent in an effort to prove what they can do as an actor. And I think so Kutcher succeeds there. I take him more seriously as an actor after seeing this movie. Is he a Daniel Day-Lewis? No, if not, of course not. But I think he is a legitimate actor, which was a pleasant surprise. Now, as for the film itself, it covers basically the founding of Apple Computers and what it took to get that off the ground, all the way through, I mean, the timeline's a little scattered, but basically all the way through the introduction of the iPod. And that was my only complaint about the film, really, that I felt it should have gone further, because not only was what happened after the iPods just so revolutionary and so, vindicating for Steve Jobs and everything we see over the course of the movie, But also, the way Steve Jobs died, basically, I mean, it's a true story, so there are no spoilers here. But Jobs died from pancreatic cancer, and basically the way the story goes is that he might have been able to beat it or lived longer if he hadn't refused traditional medical treatment up front. But Jobs, being a very obstinate person, when you see the movie, you'll see that those character traits. And I think that it was important to show how they ended up. They're what made him the person that he was, and such a contributor to society, and such a visionary. But they're also what killed him. And I think to leave that out, I don't know. Maybe the film felt that would be not in good taste. But I think they were missing an important element of Jobs' life story. But also, really impressive work for first-timers here. For Kutcher taking on a serious role for the first time, that was really good. I think that the writing, the screenplay was very well written. It seemed a little clunky in the beginning, but again, once it got underway, very well done. The producing, really, they gave the talent everything they needed here to make a great movie. And also, I would say the director. This is only about his third film. The biggest film he's done is Swing Vote with Kevin Costner a couple years back. But that's also very well handled. So I really do feel this isn't on the level of an HBO movie. It is a fun and engaging way, an entertaining way to learn about Apple computers and Steve Jobs. And that's really that's the way to sum it up. So I don't really necessarily think this is something you need to see in theaters. I don't think you need to see it on the big screen. And I'm sure that a lot of people feel that stuff's been left out. But I feel this is a great first film for these people, and it's a great introduction to Steve Jobs and what he accomplished. And I recommend that you see it at some point. All right, so that's my thoughts on Jobs. Share your own thoughts below if you've seen the film, and I hope you'll check out these other videos. Bye.